Hi everyone, this is a homework review video for Year 5 and is going to focus on the Collins 11 Plus Maths, Arithmetic and Word Problems Support and Practice Workbook. So just having a little look at the homework overview, just so you're clear about which week we're going to be focusing on. So we're going to be looking at week 1, we're going to be focusing on the You Must tasks, looking at the ratio section on pages 75 to 76. We're also going to focus on the multiplication, addition and subtraction, which is covered on pages 24 to 31 and pages 18 to 23. There is also some CGP homework to cover off, and that is the ratio and proportion section and mixed practice. So let's have a little look first of all at the ratio questions. So we're looking at the succeed section, and there are 15 ratio questions to complete. So let's have a look at number 1. We've got £2.40 is shared between Jessica, Daisy and Olivia in the ratio of 3, 2 and 1. How much does Daisy receive? So it's important to realise when the ratios are written out that they're written out in the order that the characters are listed in as well for the people within the word problem. So Jessica would be 3, Daisy would be 2 and Olivia would be 1. When you're doing ratios, it's all about adding up the total share. So in this instance, we've got 6 altogether because we'd add up the 3, the 2 and the 1. And this enables us then to realise that we've got 6 parts and we're going to share that into the £2.40. So £2.40 divided by 6. It's quite easy to work out in terms of your times tables, of course, that will give you 40. Now that means that the 40 pence represents 1 share. Remember, we're looking at how much Daisy receives. So she had 2 parts. So it will be 40 times by 2 to give you 80p. And that's the answer. Let's have a look now at question 2. A bag of sweets is shared between Arzan, Rory and Finley in the ratio of 5, 3 and 1. There are 54 sweets. How much does Arzan receive? So if we have a little look again at the ratio, it's worth just writing that above. So it's 5, 3 and 1. Those are the parts. We're going to add up the number of parts all together. So 5, 3 and 1 gives us 9 this time. So we know we've got 9 parts altogether. And we're then going to divide that into 54. So again, it's all about knowing your times tables. So 54 divided by 9 gives you 6. And then we're going to look at how many does Arzan receive. Well, he had 5 parts. So it's 5 times 6, which gives you 30. Now again, we've got the answer options. So again, selecting the right answer from there. Obviously in the exam you'll have a multiple choice sheet which you'll need to obviously choose from. Let's go on to the next question. We've got Aaron and Cushy win 1,000 between them. They agree to divide the money in the ratio of 2 to 3. How much does Cushy receive? So again, we're going to focus on the number of parts. So we've got 5 parts altogether. And then we're going to do 1,000 divided by 5. And that gives us 200. And then it's how much does Cushy receive? Well, because it's in the ratio of 2 to 3, Cushy gets 3 parts. So it's 200 multiplied by 3 to give us £600. And sometimes it's worth checking as well, because if you know how many parts the other person receives, that should make the total that you started with. So in this instance, Aaron, of course, has £400. Cushy's got 600. If you add them together, you get the £1,000 that you started with. Then we're going to move on to number 4. A necklace is made with silver and gold beads in the ratio of 7 to 3. There are 90 beads in the necklace. How many are silver? So again, 7 to 3, so it's 7 silver, 3 gold. We're going to add up the parts all together, which gives us 10. And then we're going to do 90 divided by 10. They tend to be numbers that are quite easy to work with, which of course is 9. And then we're looking at the silver, so it will be 9 times 7, which will give me 63. And is that an option there? Yes, it is. It's E. Of course, if the answer's not there, then part of our method or part of our steps, we need to go back and revise and review and maybe try again. On a map, the scale is 1 centimetre to 100 kilometres. What would the distance in metres for a 5 centimetre length on the map be? So 5 centimetres, so we know then that we've got to times the other side by 5, is going to give us 500 kilometres. So first of all, we've got to then convert. So we know that there are 1,000 metres to every kilometre. So we're going to need to times that by 1,000. So that will of course give us A, which will be 500,000 metres. Now it's worth just double checking as well on the answers, just so you've got them to check. So we had 80p first of all, then we had 30, then we had 600, 63, and then 500,000 metres. Let's move on to the next ratio question. So we've got an orange is divided in the ratio of 4, 2 and 1. If there are 14 segments in total, how many pieces represent the largest share? So by the largest, we're looking at the 4 parts. So again, we're going to add up the parts that we've got all together, which of course is 7. And then we're going to do 14 divided by 7 to give us 2. And then we're focusing on the largest part. So we're then going to do 4 times 2, which gives us 8. So the answer is D. A pack of 52 playing cards are dealt out in piles in the ratio of 7, 4 and 2. How many cards are in the smallest pile? So this time we're focusing on the 2 here. So we're going to add up the parts all together. This gives us the individual share then for one part. If we add them up, we get 13. And then we're going to do 52 divided by 13, which is 4. And we're focusing on the smallest part, so it's 2 times 4, which again gives us 8. Here's the answers. So again, you can just check the methodologies that we've done. Let's move on now to the next set of questions. At a party, 108 biscuits were shared in the ratio of 2, 3 and 1. How many biscuits did the group who had 2 parts receive? So that's quite clear. So we're going to add up the parts again. 2, 3 and 1 to give us 6. We're then going to do 108 divided by 6. So this is one way you can do it as short division. So 6 is into 1 doesn't go. So we're going to do 6 into 10 goes once. And then we've got 4 left over. 6 into 48 goes 8. So we've got 18. And because we're focusing on the 2 parts that are received, we're then going to do 18 multiplied by 2. So we're doubling 18. And that's going to give us 36. So again, having a look at the answer options, there's 36. And we can select that. Moving on to question 9. In a cricket test series, the runs scored by Freddie, Jimmy and Joe were shared in a ratio of 3, 2, 2. If 560 runs were scored, how many runs did Freddie score? So Freddie is the 3, and then Jimmy and Joe are the 2. So again, we're going to add up the parts again. This is always the starting point with these ratio questions. And we know we've got 7 parts. We're then going to divide 7 into 560. And again, these numbers are always manageable for the students. 7's into 56 goes 8. And 7's into 0, 0. So we've got 80 altogether. And remember, we're focusing on what Freddie, or how many parts Freddie had of the 560. So it's 3 times 80, which is 240. So having a little look at the answer options, is 240 there? Yes, it is. It's E. Okay, moving on to question 10 now. In a school car park, the colours of the vehicles were green, red, silver, black and blue. The car park had 55 cars in the ratio of 1, 4, 2, 1, 3. How many red cars are in the car park? Now again, there's a lot of ratios to deal with here, so we're just going to write them in order above the colours. So 1 green, 4 red, that's what we need to focus on in a moment, 2 silver, 1 black and 3 blue. So adding up the parts all together, we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 parts. So we're going to get 55 divided by 11, so again manageable numbers, to give me 5. And then we're going to focus on how many red cars were in the car park. Well, that's 4 parts, so it's 5 times 4, which of course is 20. So how many red cars were in the car park? There was 20. Number 11. A model train is made using a plan with a scale of 1 to 30. This means every 1 centimetre represents 30 centimetres. How long in metres would a model train be if it measured 5 centimetres on the plan? So one of the things to realise is that some questions will focus on a certain unit and then the answer will be given in another. So we're focusing initially in with centimetres, the answer is going to need to be in metres. So we've got the ratio 1 to 30, and then we've got to represent it with 5 centimetres. So if we've times that by 5, we need to times the other side by 5. So that gives us 150. So it's 5 to 150. But remember, it's 150 centimetres. And it asks how long in metres is the answer. So that'll be 1.5 metres because there are 100 centimetres to every metre. So the answer would be C. Let's move on now to question 12. Grace divided 144 sweets between her grandchildren in the ratio of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 1 according to their age. What was the greatest number of sweets received by one of her grandchildren? Well, this will be the 4 parts because that's the biggest number. But again, we need to add all of the parts up together. So we've got 6, 12 parts. So 144 divided by 12. Again, should be a known times table really. Gives me 12. And we're looking at the biggest ratio. So it was 4 parts. So 4 times 12. Of course, is 48. So the answer is A. Let's just confirm all the answers now with our answer scheme here. So we had 36, 240, 20, 1.5 metres, and then 48. Now these are the last 3 questions now for ratio. So a moorland map is drawn to a scale of 1 centimetre to 9 kilometres. A distance of 7.5 centimetres on the map represents how many kilometres of the moor. So if we have a little look at the ratio, so we've got 1 to 9, and then we're going to say, well, this is the centimetre side, this is the kilometre side. So 7.5 centimetres is how many kilometres. So if we times 9 by 7.5, we'll have our answer. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can say, well, 9 times 7 is 63. And then 9 times 0.5, or a half if you like, gives us 4.5. So we could then add that up together. which gives us 67.5 kilometres. So sometimes partitioning up the number can make it a lot easier. So D is the answer here. Question 14. Let's read the word problem first and see what we've got to extract. At a fairground, 240 litres of pineapple squash were made up in the ratio of 3:5. 3 parts pineapple squash and 5 parts water. How much water was added? So we're going to write the ratio 3:5. And just a quick little bit of annotation. If we say that the 3 parts are the pineapple squash, then we're going to put pineapple squash up there, and then 5 parts are the water, just to help us remember which number stands for which. So there are 8 parts altogether, and we're going to do 240 divided by 8, which gives us 30. We need to think about how many parts are the water, so it will be then 5 times 30, which is 150. And it'll be 150 litres, and that means it will be B. Number 15, this is the last ratio question now for this particular section. Kajal has a bag of 70 sweets. She keeps 10 for herself and gives a third of the remaining sweets to her brother Rajan. The other sweets are shared between Kajal's dad and mum in the ratio of 6:2. How many sweets does her dad receive? Now this question has quite a few more steps. So first of all, we're going to do 70 and we're going to subtract 10. And that will of course give us 60 because she keeps 10 for herself. She then gives a third of the remaining sweets to her brother. So we need to do 60 divided by 3, which of course gives us 20. So 60 take away 20 leaves us then with 40 sweets to share between Kajal's dad and mum. Now they do it in a ratio of 6:2. So 6:2 is 8 parts. So we're then going to do 40, because that's what we've got left, divided by 8 is 5. So 5 is 1 part, but we're focusing of course on dad, and because it's in a ratio of 6:2, he has 6 parts. So 6 times 5 gives me 30. So the answer is D. Next part of our review video is going to focus on lesson 5, which is the multiplication section, and we're going to be looking at the develop questions. I'm going to go down through some of these now just to make sure you understand some of the methodologies that we're going to use. We're not going to cover every single one, but certainly pick out some of the key questions that involve certain methods. So let's have a look first of all at number 1. We're going to multiply 20 by 30. Now, for most students, we'd like to think you can probably do that in your head, but if you can't, then you could do 10 times 30 is 300, and then of course double it. So we know that is 600. The next question is find the product of 390. Now the word product means multiplication, and that's important that you know that. So I'm not getting confused with things like addition. We're going to be timesing these numbers together. Now the easy way to do this one is to say, well, 3 times 9 is 27. How do we know then how many zeros we require? Well, it's all about how many zeros were in the question. So we've got 2 there and we've got 1 there. So we need 3 zeros, and that will give us 27,000. Calculate 6 lots of 0.8. Again, with this one, what we can do is remove the decimal point and just think about it as 6 times 8, which of course is 48. But we need to make sure we include the decimal point. Now the way I would think about this one is to say, well, I'm going to estimate it. 0.8 is nearly 1, so 6 ones are 6. So we know then that it has to be less than 6 because it's less than 1. That's what 0.8 is. That's 8 tenths, so it's 4.8. And you will find with a lot of these multiplication questions, you can just remove the decimal point and then add it back in later on. 0.4 times 0.6. So if you were working out, for example, I don't know, the area of something. So again, we're going to do 4 times 6, of course, is 24. But we're going to need to add in the decimal point. I'm going to put 0 as a placeholder. So it's 0.24 millimetres. And of course, if it was the area, we would add in the squared sign as well. Double 28.4. Now, what I would do with this one is I would just make sure that I'm just doing it as a column method. Again, some students may be able to do this in their head, which would be great. So 4 and 4/10 gives us 8/10. Lining up that decimal point again. The units column has got 16. Then we've got 2 10s, 2 10s, and then 1 10 to give me 5. So 56.8. Now with the next question, again, we're going to need a little bit more space here. Now you may have scrap paper at home that you're using if you have filled up the space within the book, which is fine. So we're going to remove the decimal point. So it says multiply 8 and 865.4. So we're going to make it 8,654 and we're going to times it by 8. So we're going to start with the units column. So we can do 8 times 4 is 32. Now you'll notice that I've carried the 3 10s. So you need to add that on to the next part. 8 times 5 is 40. Add the 3 gives me 43. Then 8 times 6, or if you like, 8 times 600 is 48. Add the 4 gives me 52. 8 8 to 64. Add the 5 is 69. Now, when we're writing it down, and again, we could always estimate the answer, but we're going to need to add in a decimal point. So it becomes 6,923.2. Moving on now to the next question. We've got to find the product, got that word product again, of 28.64 and 3.2. So let's again just lay that out. We're going to take out the decimal point. This one's going to be slightly more difficult because we're multiplying really by a 2-digit number because we've removed the decimal point. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 6s are 12. 2 8s are 16 plus the 1 gives me 17. 2 times 2 is 4. Add the 1 is 5. Now, because we're now multiplying by the tens column, we're actually going to add a placeholder. So we're going to add a 0 here. So 3 times 4 is 12. 3 6s are 18. Add the 1 gives me 19. 3 8s are 24. Add the 1 give me 25. And then 3 times 2 is 6. Add the 2 is 8. So we're now ready to add up our columns. So 8 in the units, 4 in the tens, 16, and then 11, and then 9. So we've got 9, 1, 6, 4, 8. Now, of course, we do need to add in our decimal point. Now, how are we going to work out where that goes? Well, if we think of 28.64, if we were to round it to the nearest 10, that would make 30. And if we make that a 3, then 90 is a good estimate for what we need to have. So we know then that the decimal point goes between the 1 and the 6 to create the number 91.648. Now, just with the other questions, again, you can use similar methods to the ones that we've already shown you. But number 8 gives you 55.61. And again, as a good estimate, if you were to round that up to 10, round that down maybe to 6, and then 6 times 10 is 60. So again, you know that you're roughly in the right place. Number 9, we've got £671.50. And then the last one, 89 groups of 2.68. Now I'm just going to show you that one over here. So we're going to make it 268. Again, I've removed the decimal point. And we're going to multiply that by 89. So I just wanted to show you this over here. So 9 8s are 72. 9 6s, of course, are 54. Add the 7 gives you 61. 9 times 2 is 18. Add the 6 gives you 24. Now, if you remember from last time, when we get to the tens column, we must put the placeholder down. So 8 times 8 is 64. 8 6s are 48. Add the 6 is 54. And then 8 times 2 is 16. Add the 5 is 21. So we're now ready to add up the columns. So remembering, of course, the numbers that you've carried, you of course have added on already. So we've got 23,852. So now we've just got to think about, well, where are we going to put the decimal point? Well, you might remember, if we think about 89 groups of 2.68, so if we round that up to 3, we make that 90. 90 times 3 would be 270. So we know then it's going to be slightly less than that. But we're going to put the decimal point there to give us 238.52. The next set of questions that we're going to review come from the Succeed section on page 30. And this is a time test, but we would certainly suggest you work through these questions methodically, but just be aware of how long you're actually taking. So let's look first of all at question number 1. There are 324 beech trees in a forest. There are 6 times as many oak trees. How many oak trees are there? So the first thing to do would be to estimate roughly what you're going to get as your answer. So if we think of 324, if we round it down to 300, and then we're timesing it by 6. So we need roughly 1800 as our answer. Now this allows us then to actually rule out the ones that we know are nowhere near 1800. So we can get rid of 54. We can eliminate 9,141, that's a lot bigger. 972 is sort of half. And then we're left with 2 amounts. And that's great because we're now down to sort of a 50-50 chance of getting this correct. We're now going to work out the calculation. So 324 multiplied by 6. So that's how we need to lay it out. It's quite easy when we're multiplying by a single digit number. So 6 4s are 24. 6 2s are 12. Add the 2 is 14. 6 3s are 18. Add the 1 is 19. So we've got our answer, 1,944. Moving on now to question 2. The drama class performed their play 14 times. The average audience for each show was 286. How many people watched their performance altogether? So this is, again, a 2-digit multiplication. We can look at an estimated answer as well. So if we make that 15 times and we make that 300, so 15 times 300 would give us 3,000, and then it would be 4,500. So 4,500 is again a good estimate. If we look at the answer options, 300, that's not close. 3,000 is a little way off as well. And the rest of the numbers could be plausible. So let's now write down our methodology. So we're going to have 286 multiplied by 14. Start with the units. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. Add the 2 tens is 34. 4 times 2 is 8. Add the 3 is 11. Now we're going to put in our placeholder. So that'll be a 0. This is quite easy because we're doing 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 8 is 8, 1 times 2 is 2. And then we're going to add up our answer. And that gives us 4,004. And if we have a look across, the answer, of course, is A. Moving on to the next question, you might remember from the develop section, we talked about if you are multiplying by anything monetary, you can just remove the decimal point and the pound sign and then worry about adding that back in later on. So in this question, we've got Alice buys 86 special stamps for her collection. Each costs £4.75. How much does Alice pay altogether? So let's say we're going to remove the decimal point and we're going to times it then by 86. So again, times tables are so important here. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 sevens are 42. Gives us 45. 6 times 4 is 24. Add the 4 is the 8. Remember, I'm now going to add in the placeholder, so add in the 0. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 sevens are 56. Add the 4 to give me 60. 8 fours are 32. Add the 6 is 38. And then we're ready, of course, to add them up. And we get 40,850, but of course we've got to then add in the decimal point. So again, you can estimate, you could say, well, that's 90, that's £5, I'm going to get roughly 450. It's maybe slightly less than that, but again, if we look at our answer, I'm going to put the decimal point there and the pound sign there to make £408.50. And of course, I've got to double check that that's there, and it is. It's A. Now, for a number of these questions, you're going to use very, very similar methods to the ones that I've shown you in the first 3 questions. So let's just have a little look at the answers then for question 4. We've got 1,488 millimetres, so that will be E. And that again was a multiplication one. You can remove the decimal point and do 32 times 465. And then make sure you put the decimal point back in at the end. And then on number 5, we've got to do 146 multiplied by 23. So a boat carries a total of 23 passengers on each trip from Brightlingsea to Mersey Island. It can do a maximum of 146 trips a day in July. What is the maximum number of passengers the boat could transport in one day in July? Now, interesting with a question like that, if we do 146 times 23, you will get your answer. So let's just show you how that looks over here. So again, you can see how we would times them. So we've got 146 multiplied by 23. So 3 6s are 18. 3 times 4 is 12. 13. 3 times 1, add the 1, don't forget, is 4. Then we're going to add the placeholder again. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 4s are 8. The 1 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2. So we're going to add that together. And we get 3358. So 3,358. Again, having a look at the answer options, does that exist? And of course it does. It's A, 3,358. Now moving on to the next set of questions, and again, a lot of these involve very similar sort of multiplication, so let's just make sure we know what the answers are, and you can check it against what you have in your book. So number 6, I'm going to use a highlighter now just to indicate what the answers are. We've got 14,580, and this was about napkins. So a school cook orders 324 packets of napkins. There are 45 napkins in each packet. How many individual napkins are ordered all together? And you see that word all together quite a lot. So obviously you're going to need to multiply there. So 14,850. Question 7. A school orders 64 maths books. There are 326 pages in each book. How many pages are there altogether? So So I'm just going to show you this one on the side so you can see the methodology again. So you've got 326 times by 64. And we can see what the answer is. It's 20,864. Let's make sure we get that in terms of when we do our calculation. 4 6s, 24. 4 times 2 is 8. Add the 2. 4 3s are 12. Add the 1 for 13. Put in our 0 because it's multiplying now by the tens column. 6 6s are 36. 6 2s are 12. 15. 6 3s are 18. Add the 1 is the 9. And then I'm ready again to add them up. So there we are, got 20,864 pages. Having a look then at the answer option, which of course is D. Question 8. Ben celebrated finishing his exams by going on holiday with his 2 best friends. He went for 18 nights, staying at a bed and breakfast for £20.50 a night per person. What was the total bill for Ben and his friends? Now this is one of the questions that does involve more than one step. And there will be questions within your exam where sometimes you have to do that. So the first thing to do is work out the total it will cost maybe for one night for his friends. So you would do £21.50 multiplied by 3. Followed by timesing it then by 18, because of course it's 18 nights that they stay for. And the answer is 1,161. So again, just making sure you extract the information correctly and you're being accurate with your methodology. Question 9. Jasvir has a total of 32 pets. On average, it costs 67 per pet per day to feed. What is the total cost in August to feed his pets? So if we look at the methodology here, we're going to need to do 32 times 67 times by 31. Now it's really important that children know how many days there are in each of the months of the year, and you can use your knuckles for that, or it may well be that you've just learned off by heart how many days per month, because this again involves kind of 2 steps. So let's just show you how we would work this one out. So the first thing to do is we're going to do 32 times 67. Because it's 67 pence. We'll add in the decimal points, etc. at the end. So 2 times 7 is 14. 2 6s are 12. 13. I'm going to add a placeholder in. 3 7s are 21. 3 times 6s are 18. And then we're going to add up the amounts we've got. Now the first part of this is to ensure that again we do add in a decimal point. So 32 times 67p is going to give us £21.44. Now we're going to need to multiply that by 31. So it's just remembering what we've got there. So we've got 21. I'm going to take out the decimal point altogether. And we're going to then times that by 31. So the first part is nice and easy. Then we're going to add in our placeholder. We're going to do 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12 again. 3 times 1, we get to add the 1 you've carried, and 6. I'm now ready to add them up. And I've got 66464. Now it's quite easy to work out where the decimal point's going to go because we're going to need to, it's going to be in the hundreds. So 664.64. And again, if we look at our answer options, does that exist? And it does, it would be B. So I hope that makes sense. But again, learning your days, how many days for each month is a really important skill here. Moving on then to the next question. Naomi wrote an essay. The average number of words per line on a page was 19, and there were 34 lines on a page. She wrote 8 pages in total. What was the total number of words in her essay? So as you can see from the answers down here, you would do 19 times 34, and then you would times that by 8, and that would give you 5,168 words. So the answer will be E. Number 11, Paula helped to knit a set of nativity characters. For each wise man, she knitted on average 43 stitches per row and 216 rows. She knitted 3 wise men. How many stitches altogether did she knit? So you need to do 43 times 216 and then multiply that by 3, and that will give you 27,864. Well done if you got that right. Brian's football team won a tournament. 6 teams in total took part. Each team played each other in the first round. Then the 2 teams with the most points played in the final. If each game of football lasted 6 minutes each half, how many minutes of football did Brian's team play? So this needs to be broken down. So there are 6 teams in total that took part. So each team played each other in the first round. So you need to do 5 plus 1 times 6 times 2. So that will give you 6 times 12. Because if each game of football lasted 6 minutes each half, how many minutes of football did Brian's team play? Well, 6 minutes each half means it's 12 minutes per game. So you do 6 times 12, and that gives you 72 minutes altogether. Question 13. A football club hired 253 coaches to take supporters to a cup final. On average, each coach carried 84 passengers. What was the total number of passengers transported? So for this question again, we can do it as a column method. So 253 multiplied by 84. So the first thing to do will be 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 5 is 20. Add the 1, 21. 4 times 2 is 8. Add the 2 is 10. And add in your placeholder. 8 3s are 24. 8 5s are 40. Add the 2 is 42. 8 2s are 16, add the 4 is 20. So now I should be able to add them up now. And I get 21,252 passengers that will go and support at the cup final. And that will give you answer D. And the last 2 questions, again, we'll just show you the answers here. So we've got £137.34. So it costs Finlay an average of £1.09 per litre of petrol. It takes 42 litres to completely fill the fuel tank of his car. To make a return trip to Bristol, he needs to completely fill his tank 3 times. How much does it cost Finlay in petrol? So the first thing to do will be £1.09 times 42. And then don't forget, he's doing 3 journeys in total. Fills up his tank 3 times, doesn't he? So he needs to times that by 3 to give you 137.34. And then the last question. Olivia has to order enough pens for her school for the following term. She needs to buy 5 boxes per year group. There are 6 year groups and 50 packets in a box. Each packet costs £5.50. What is the total price of her order? So 5 times 6 is 30, so 30 times 50 packets. That obviously then needs to be multiplied by £5.50 to give you 8,250. Next part of this video is going to look at the Succeed section, the time test 2 on page 22, and this is going to deal with subtraction and addition questions. So let's have a little look at the first question. It says, in one football season at school, the Year 5 children scored a total of 142 goals and the Year 6 children score a total of 168. How many goals are scored scored all together. So this is just an addition one. Now I think the most important thing when you're adding these kind of numbers together is that you make sure that your digits are nicely lined up together and you're as accurate as you possibly can be. So 8 and 2 is 10. 6 and 4 and 10. Don't forget to add the one that you've carried. It's 11. And then we get 310. So the answer, of course, is C. We'll just highlight that as we go down through. Question 2. A swimming pool contains 6,000 litres of water. If 3,214 litres are pumped out to lower the water level, how many litres are left? So this is obviously a subtraction sum. So we're now going to lay this out. So we've got 6,000. There are different ways of approaching this. One of the methods you can use is what's called a counting up method, where you actually use addition to work out subtraction. So perhaps I'll show you that after we've done it with the normal sort of column method here. So what we realise is we can't do the first part, so we're going to need to go and borrow. So we make that a 10. We make that one a 9 because of course we're going below 0, and we'll make that a 9 as well. So we're now ready. So we can do 10 take away 4 is 6, 9 take away 1 is 8, 9 take away 2 is 7, and then 5 take away 3 is 2. So we get 2,786 litres. So if we have a look at the answer here, the answer, of course, will be B. Now, I'm going to show you the counting up method because it might be quite useful, particularly for those children that struggle with subtraction. So if we just lay out our answer again, or our question again, we've got 6,000 and we're going to subtract 3,214. So the way this works is all about making sure that you use complements to 10 or 100 or 1,000. So to make it easier to add up. So what we're going to do here is we're firstly going to add a 6, and then we're going to note down where we've got to. So that gives us 3,220. Now the bigger the jumps, the easier it is. So we're now going to add an 80, and that will take us to 3,300. And then the next jump we're going to make is going to be quite a large one. So we're going to add on 700. And that, of course, will take us to 4,000. And then the final jump, because remember we need to get to 6,000, is we're going to add on another 2,000. And if we add up our answer, we've got 6 in the units, 8 in the tens, 7 in the hundreds, and then 2 in the thousands. So that's one way of working out subtraction, if you like. We call it the counting up method, so it's using addition to work out subtraction. Now moving on to question 3. Claire has a vegetable garden. It's 7.75 metres long. She increases the length by 2.8 metres. How long is Claire's garden now? So I'm just going to rub out our jottings from our previous question. And we're going to make sure that we lay this out. So we do know, of course, we're going to be using addition. That's important. You could always put the operation there. So we've got 9.75 metres. And we're going to add 2.8 metres. So what's really important here is that the decimal points line up, and then we'll be able to add them up together. So how many in the units? We've got 5. 7 and 8 is 15. And then we've got 9, 2 and the 1 to make 12. So the answer is 12.55 metres. And again, having a look at the answer options, we know then that will give us A. So the important thing there is, again, that you are lining up those digits correctly. Let's rub that out and move on to question 4. Sam puts 4 lengths of wood together. One is 87.91 centimetres, one is 36.32 centimetres, One is 209.4 centimetres and one is 8.06 centimetres. What is the total sum of their lengths? So of course we're going to be adding them together. Now again, what we would suggest here is you start with the biggest value. So we've got 209.40, and then I'm actually going to cross that out so I know the ones that I've done. Then we've got 87.91. Then we're going to do 36.32. So you can see I'm lining up all the digits and the decimal points accurately. And then we've got 8.06. Now I'm of course ready to add them up. So looking at the hundredths column, we've got 9, tenths column, got 16, carry the whole number over there. And we've got 9 and 7 is 16, plus 6 is 22, 30, 31, 8 and 3 and 3, so that'll be 14. And then we've got 300. So we've got 341.69 centimetres. Moving on to question 5. On Monday, Emma cycles 4 kilometres. On Wednesday, she cycles 1.25 kilometres, less than on Monday. How many metres does Emma cycle on Wednesday? So the first thing to do here is conversion. So you need to convert your kilometres to metres. So we've got 4,000 metres in 4 kilometres. And then she cycles 1.25, which of course is 1,250 metres. And we then need to subtract those amounts. Now, we could actually use our counting up method here. Might be quite a good one to use. So we're going to add 50 to take it to 1,300. Just going to make my notations down here just so it's clear. And then we're going to add 700 to get to 2,000. And then we've got another 2,000. So we're going to add them up. And that gives us 2,750 metres. So again, I quite like sometimes using addition rather than subtraction to help me. Moving on to question number 6. In maths, Jovan was asked to find the difference in length between two pieces of rope. One was 0.089 metres and the other was 8.9 metres. What was the difference? And this is really going to test your place value. So we're going to write first of all 8.9 metres, but I'm going to add some placeholders. And you'll see why I'm going to do that in a moment, because it will make sure we're lining everything up together. So we've got 0.089, and then we're going to subtract those from each other. So the first thing to realise is that we're going to be borrowing. So we're going to take from the 9, and make that 10. And because this is a 0, I'm going to make that a 9. And then we're ready to do our subtraction. So 10 take away 9 is 1. 9 take away 8 is 1. And then we've got 9 take away 0, because this has become an 8. And then we've got 8.811 metres. So again, I think it's really important that when you're doing this to have all of your digits lined up. There's nothing wrong with putting in your placeholders to make it easier. And of course the answer to this one is A. Moving on to number 7. Felicity runs the London Marathon, which is 42.2 kilometres long. She runs for 31.5 kilometres and she walks for 6.9 kilometres before her final run to the finish. How long is Felicity's final run? So the way to work this one out is to add together the parts that she's done already. So I'm just going to get my pen to do that. So we're going to add 31.5 kilometres with the 6.9. So we're going to add those together, which of course, gives us 38.4. And then we're going to need to subtract that from 42.2 kilometres, because that's the total distance. And this is the distance that she's run so far, so we can work out then the final part that she does. We are going to need to do a little bit of borrowing here. And of course the answer is 3.8 kilometres. So having a look at the answer options, it's B. Moving on now to question 8. So we're going to read the question through first. My teacher, Mr. Dollimore, went on a diet. In month 1, he lost 2.5 kilograms. In month 2, he lost 1.75 kilograms. And in month 3, he lost 2.25 kilograms. In month 4, he decided to treat himself and gained 0.66 kilograms. How many kilograms did Mr. Dollimore lose altogether? So, first of all, we're going to add together the amounts that he's gained. So we tend to start with the biggest number at the top. So 2.5. I'm going to put the placeholder in as well. Then we've got 1.75 and 2.25. So again, just making sure that all those digits are lined up. So we add up first hundredths. 12, 14, 15, and then we've got 6. So 6.5 kilograms is what he gained. What he lost, but what he gained was 0.66. So we've got to take off the 0.66 now. And again, you can see I've added in a placeholder just to make it easier. So we are going to need to borrow. So we're going to do 10 take away 6 is the 4. We need to borrow again. 14 take away 6 is 8. And then we get 5.84 kilograms. So the answer is E. Moving on then to question 9. The maximum weight allowed in the school lift is 350 kilograms. 4 teachers are in the lift weighing 62.5 kilograms, 60.32 kilograms, 80 kilograms, 83.3 kilograms. If one more person wants to get in the lift, what is the maximum weight they can be? So I'm just going to rub out my jottings from the previous question and just make sure that we lay this out correctly. So the first thing to do is add together the 4 teachers in the lift and what their total weight will be. I will start with the biggest amount. Then we're going to add together the 80. I'm going to put kilograms every time because we know what that is. Then we've got 62.5. Then we're going to do 60.32. Because we've got those digits there, I'm just going to put those placeholders in. In actual fact, I'm going to rub out the kilograms and then just put a 0 in there. So again, let's just add these up together. We've got 11. Got 3, 2 and 1 gives me 6. 8 and 8 is 16. Add the 6 is 22, 28. So the total weight for the 4 teachers is 286.12. We're going to need to then subtract that from 350 kilograms. So we are going to need to borrow. And then we're ready to go. 10 take away 2 gives me 8. I've got 8 here. 3. I need to borrow again here. Gives us 6. So the answer is 63.88 kilograms. So the one person that wants to get into the lift, that's the maximum weight they could be before it goes over the 350. So the answer is E. Going on to the next question, we've got Pinnock runs 7.7 kilograms. on Monday, 12.3 kilometres on the Tuesday, 9.5 kilometres on the Wednesday. How far does Pinat run altogether? So sorry, we're dealing in kilometres here. So 7.7 kilometres on the Monday, 12.3 kilometres on the Tuesday, 9.5 kilometres on the Wednesday. So we're just going to add those amounts together. So again, it's got to be accurate with your place value. Make sure you line up all those columns. The one big mistake I can see with these kind of questions is where the columns and decimal point are not lined up together. 18, 19. So the answer is 29.5 kilometres. We obviously don't need the 0. We can just write it as 29.5 kilometres. Moving on to question 11. With question 11, what you will notice here is that there's actually quite a lot of information. So I'm going to show you a sneaky little trick to make sure that we cover everything here. I'm just going to mark down 29.5 for the previous one. So Paris goes to various clubs during the week. Every Friday she attends a maths club for 1 hour. On Monday she goes to the gym for 1.5 hours. On Tuesday she attends ice skating for 1 3/4 hours. And on Thursday she's at an athletics club for 3 1/4 hours. What is the total number of hours that Paris spends at clubs in a week? So there is a lot of information here. So what we're going to do, we're obviously going to add together all of the hours. So we're going to start obviously with the 1 hour that she attends for the maths club. So I'm actually going to do it as that. And you'll see why in a moment. So we're going to cross out the 1 hour. And this is my trick to make sure that I don't repeat anything or miss anything. On Monday, she goes to the gym for 1.5 hours. So that becomes 1.5. Then on Tuesday, she attends ice skating for 1 3/4 hours. So 1.75. That means we've got the 3/4. And on a Thursday, she's at an athletics club for 3 1/4 hours. So 3 1/4 will be 3.25. So I'm ready now to actually add all those amounts together. You can see how my columns again are all lined up nicely. So you've got 5 and 7, 12, 14, 15. Carry another hour over. And then add up these carefully. So I've got 7.5 hours. And if you have a look at the answer option, then we know that the answer, of course, will be C. We're going to move on now to question 12. Only the last 4 to go here. So well done if you've managed to get through all these questions. So Hafsa has asked in her mental maths test to calculate taking 100 metres from 10,000 metres. She answered it correctly. What was her answer? So we've got 10,000. I'm going to write that down first of all. Subtract 100. I would like to think most students can do this in their head. And one way that you can use your answer options is to say, well, if I add 100 to any of those amounts that I've got there, I should get back to 10,000. And if you look at B, 9,900, if I add 100 to that amount, of course, I'm going to get back to 10,000. So that's a good way of double checking. So the answer to that one, of course, is B. Billy had to select 38 photographs from his collection of 201 for an exhibition in his village art festival. How many photographs did he have left? Well, that's a subtraction one. You do get 183. But I will just show you how that would look as a method. So we get 201. And we're going to subtract 63. Sorry, no, we're not. We're going to subtract 38. Sorry, I've got the answer in my head. We subtract 38. So we can't do that first part, so we are going to need to go and borrow. So we're going to do 11 take away 8 is 3. 9 take away 3 is 6. So we get 163. Moving on now to question 14. Ali is asked how many sides there are in 3 pentagons. So we're going to do 3 times 5. Just going to write these down again just to make sure that I've covered them all. I'm going to cross them out as we go along. 2 rectangles. So that'll be 2 times 4. 2 scalene triangles. So we know a scalene triangle, of course, has got 3 sides. 3 isosceles triangles. And then 7 octagons. And that, of course, is an 8-sided shape. So if we do these quick times tables, we've got our answers there. And if we add those up, and again, I've tried to make sure when I've recorded the answers, the columns are all lined up nicely. So we've got, let's put together 6 and 9 is 15, 21, 29, 34. If we add these together, 1, 5 and 3, we've got 94. So the answer is D. So again, as I was going through that, I can cross out the ones that we'd done to ensure I didn't repeat any again. Number 15, Neil had to deliver Easter eggs to friends and family. His first journey was 12.4 miles, second was 43.9 miles, third was 0.6 miles, fourth was 28.8 miles, and the final journey was 19.7 miles. How far in miles did Neil travel in total? So again, quite a lot of information. Got to be really good with your adding skills here. So let's see that we can make sure we've got them all written down accurately. So we're going to start in order rather than choosing the biggest because we don't want to miss any. So his first journey was 12.4 miles. Because with addition, of course, it doesn't matter which order we have them in, really. The second was 43.9. Third was 0.6. That's really important you get that written down correctly. Fourth was 28.8. And the final was 19.7. There's quite a few numbers. I'm going to add them up now. Sometimes it's easier when you put them as complements of 10. So I can put 4 and 6 together to make, then we've got the 9 for 19. And we've got 27, 34. Now, sometimes what I'll do when we have numbers like this is I'll have a look to see if the 4 exists in the answer options. So it's not on that one, it's not on that one, and it's not on that one. So I've actually only got 2 possible answers here now. So again, we're going to put the complements of 10 together. So 2 and 8, 13, and then we've got 22, 25. And then we add up the units column, also the tens column here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10. So 105.4. So the answer must be B. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you found this a very useful video. Bye bye.